Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TNN Podcast. With me today, hosting this beautiful episode, is Dr. Tare Biu, um, a consultant pediatrician based in Bristol, United Kingdom. Dr. Tare Biu, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, David. My name is Dr. Tare Biu. I'm a product of FGC Worry, the set people call the prehistoric set, 1967 to 1973. I studied medicine at the University of Benin and then did my residency in pediatrics at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Came to the UK 36 years ago as a registrar, and I worked as a consultant in over 30 years that I've been here. My areas of specialty are pediatric, neuro, developmental pediatrics, child protection, and international pediatrics. My goal is to make sure no child suffers, to make sure no child pays for hospital treatment, and to make sure no child is hungry. I'm very attached to my alma mater, and I do whatever it takes within my ability to improve the lot of Federal Government College Warri and the SOSANs all over the country and all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a guest today. She's visiting the UK at the moment. She's served Nigeria with all her heart and all her strength. She's an experienced business consulting executive and has over 18 years of operational and leadership experience in challenging goal-oriented environments. Her name is Jamila Omar. She is the managing partner of Garnex Onyx Consulting. We'll get to find out what all that is about in a moment, but we'll first of all give Jamila a chance to introduce herself to the TNN audience and tell us a bit about her early childhood.
Good evening, David and Dr. Biu. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Good evening, viewers at home and all the Isla fans out there. My name is Jamila M. Umar, and I am a product of the Federal Government Girls College, Bauchi, enrollment class 1990. And I remember times in FGGC Bauchi with a lot of nostalgia. I had a lot of wonderful friends and classmates, and of course the amazing ladies and gentlemen that shaped our minds from them to make us what we are today. I have often said the most valuable part of my education are the days I actually spent in FGGC Bauchi. Professionally, I'm a business process manager, and I've been a business process manager for over 10 years now. I have, like David said, I have over 18 years professional experience under my belt across various industries. I am a very passionate Nigerian. A lot of my friends would often say that they've never met, or I'm one of the very few optimistic Nigerians they have met that believe that no matter how bad the situation is, given the opportunity, things could actually better. I have excelled over the years in, applying business process management across various spheres of business and management, and so I'll be very happy to to you, to the hearing of our viewers, about a lot of things that we've done and about our current project. Thank you so much for having me on the show, David. I use.
Excellent. So there you have it, audience. Introductions are done. We'll get straight into the podcast. Please remember the podcast is more or less like a conversation. I think conversations we're going to have today will center on giving back, will center on early life experiences, will center on, particularly with Jamila, analytics, revenue delivery. Part of her highlights, especially on her experience, is growing and reporting revenue through detailed analytics supported by cutting edge business intelligence suites. Explain that to us, Jamila. What does that entail?
Okay, to understand that phrase, I'll use the simplest of examples I can think of. You're aware of what's happening with AI today. If you went online, you probably had an area of interest that you wanted to explore, but were not very sure what to do. All you need to do is start a statement concerning what you want to do on the AI. It could be the Microsoft Copilot, could be the Google's ChatGPT. I mean, you just start that statement, and it begins to expand it, making suggestions, and before you realize what's happening, you actually have a whole document on that topic of interest or that area of interest. So that's basically what we do. We look at what the key goals are. We look at what the interests are, what the plans are, what people want to achieve, And our job is to actually come in and break it down at a micro level, creating what we refer to as, a value chain, identifying the key value chain actors, and plugging them in, designing your process from end to end, identifying the technology that is required, the software that you need, and so on and so forth. So this can happen across various industries and areas of interest. For instance, you could choose to engage us on optimizing education in this country, and so it's going to be our job to first of all assess the current state of education, look at what your long-term goals are, where you are now, where you aim to be, and the timeline to actually reach those goals. And so we're going to now break it down into the current value chain. So you have the what do you call them now? You have the tertiary education institutions. You have the primary education institutions and the likes of them. So we're going to break all of that down. What is the process? You have the 6334, that's the 6 years of primary school, 3 years of junior secondary school, 3 years of senior secondary school, and of course, depending on the program, that a program of interest. Forgive me, Dr. Tare, I know you soon tell me that medicine is, above 4 years. So you have the 4 years or 7 years or whatever number of years that you need to actually qualify professionally. For instance, I understand that lawyers actually take more time than the average social science courses that would require perhaps 4 years. So we understand that whatever the duration is, but we have an average standardized 6334. So if that's the case, we start from the first 6, primary school. We look at what the curriculum is, from primary 1. What is the curriculum? What was the makeup of the curriculum a few years ago? What is the makeup of the curriculum now? In terms of resources at their disposal, what were the resources then? What are the current acceptable resources? What can we do to actually put those resources at their disposal? And then you move on to the secondary school, the junior secondary school, and senior secondary school and all that. And at the end of the day, after your analytics, you want to make sure that by the time you optimize, there is value. For instance, I know that about the period that people like Dr. Tare and perhaps David might have graduated, a secondary school certificate actually held more value. You could actually start work with a secondary school certificate, and you actually earned, very well from the government. But today, perhaps ONDs and NCEs have taken the place of what secondary school certificates were achieving then. And so basically, that's what we mean when we say that we identify the key opportunities and the requisite technology, and fuse that together to actually help you achieve your goals. I yield.
So you simplify processes in order to improve them. That's a very
Yes.
interesting subject. Dr. Biu.
Yes. Jamila, I'm really very proud about
Thank you, sir.
about the progress you've had in life and all the things you've achieved. I can remember 1967. We had a few students from practically the same geographical area you come from. You are 10 miles ahead of them. I'm so proud. Over the years, we've had problems with out of school children in Nigeria, more so in certain states in the north, particularly Kano State, Kano, Katsina, and what do you think should be the ideal strategy to get these children into school? As part of the Child Rights Act, education should be compulsory for children. Why are these children not in school? And what strategy, looking at both religious, cultural, and other unforeseen factors, including poverty, how do you think we can get these children into school? That's one of my dreams. Thank you.
Oh yes, Dr. Tare. Well, I wasn't expecting to get through this without being compelled to address this concern. But the thing is, I would like to start from a cultural perspective. Over the years, I've watched several development partners, foreign entities, and even some local entities with interest in ensuring that the out of school children gap in the north is bridged. And I've seen a lot of these programs fail in spite of all the funds that are pumped into it. Now, and I'm going to only speak from from an optimization perspective. I stand to be corrected. I'm not saying that's exactly how it is, but I'm just going to approach it from an optimization perspective. And first of all, I'm going to start with the culture. It's important to first of all understand the culture, which is ingrained in the religious practices. In the predominantly northern Muslim north, it's very difficult to divorce the northern culture from the Islamic, culture as it. And the reason is because the northern Muslims' way of life is actually the Islamic way of life, which everybody assumes is, the northern culture and all that. Now, oftentimes, those who come with those initiatives and intentions to assist rather come from a perspective of, oh, we know the solution and we want to shove it down your throat. Western education. When they understand that there is actually phobia, or there are genuine fears from predominantly northern Muslims about the Western education and the kind of cultural dilution it brings with it, right? Now, what I expect is to first of all take a step back and look at the Islamic education system holistically. The Islamic education system has a very rich and long history, dating back going as far as places like Timbuktu. It goes as far as the days of the Aramaic, scripting. It goes as far as the Greek era of traversing the world and gaining education. For example, you'll be shocked to find out that the words that you're very conversant with, called the quarantine can actually be traced back to something that happened during the time of the prophet. In Arabic, it is actually referred to as the Arbaun. And the Arbaun, when translated into Latin, would refer to, or what the Italian, as we call it today, would sound like quaranta. You understand? Quarantuna, which is 40. And then that translated to English will now be quarantine. So you see that this is actually something that originated from as far back as then, that may not necessarily be tied to religion. So this information is actually there. There is a lot of knowledge from the Arabic perspective. There is a lot of knowledge that can be traced to the Latin era. There is a lot of knowledge that can be traced to the 40 BCs or 30s or thereabout of the European sojourn into other parts of the world. Now, what do I expect? Look at the culture. The average education system in the north is that at as early as 3, just when you're beginning to, form your speech patterns, when you start speaking, you're shipped off to the slate school. You go to school and come back to your parents. That is where they teach you the alphabet, just like you do in, the formative years of the play school, the nursery school, and all that. They teach them the alphabet, and then they move on to formation of, linking the alphabet to start spellings, formation of words, and so on and so forth. Now, take a look at the education system Islamically and see what you can do about training. I remember as a young girl that we used to have the Arabic Teachers College. There is nothing wrong in actually training the Arabic teachers to actually train them and certify them and post them to some of these slate schools. Do you understand? Recertify those slate schools at formative levels, and then you begin to take it from there. Incorporate the Arabic language, the Hausa language, the Fulfulde, and a few other major northern languages as choices of education language. You understand? So let them start from there, because I understand that it is easier for people to actually gain knowledge, to learn, when you teach them in their local dialect, rather than when you force them to actually learn. By the time you encounter the predominantly Muslim northerner, he already has the Hausa as his traditional language, that's the mother tongue, or and Fulfulde, that is Fulani, as a second language, and then Arabic as a third language. That's for those who understand Hausa and Fulani. And if it is a Fulani person that you encounter in the north, he already has Fulfulde Fulani as their mother tongue, and then of course the Hausa as a second language, and then Arabic as a third language. Now, forcing that person to first of all abandon all these three to go back and then learn English before coming to catch up, can confuse the brain. It can create a lot of difficulties. So I would say, first and foremost, redesign these intervention programs in accordance with the societal norms and customs, respecting what their values are, and then give them an opportunity to develop at a level where they can now switch and learn English as an alternative. And then by the time they're headed to higher institutions, they can replicate everything they have learned, but in English. This is what I think. For instance, let me give you a quick example. If you brought astronauts from various parts of the world, pick an American, pick a Russian, pick a German, pick a Chinese astronaut, and a few other languages that that they don't understand, that where they don't understand each other, and then put them in a room, and then bring a professor that starts a formula, gets to a level and stops, and without saying anything to anyone, and then just drop the chalk. You'll be shocked to find out that one of those people, perhaps the American, might actually stand up, pick up the chalk, and continue that formula to a level. And maybe the Chinese man might actually identify an error in that formula. And he stands up without saying a word to anybody. He stands up, pick up the duster, cleans a particular part of it, correct it, and when he turns around, you'll be shocked that all of them would actually nod at each other and they realize, voila, we actually made a mistake there and he's right for correcting it. And the German may actually stand up and continue the formula. At the end of the day, when they finish that formula, you'll be shocked to find out that all of them will look at the formula and they actually understand what they're talking about.
Thank you.
But when they speak, they need to understand each other. I yield here. I hope this actually.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, studies have shown that if you train the under threes in their mother tongue, they learn faster. In fact, some say allow them to learn in their mother tongue till they're about 6, and then they can introduce the second languages, English, French, or whatever, Arabic, or whatever it is. See, my concern is the local government councils and the state governments. Are they doing sufficiently enough to get these out of school children back to school, any form of school?
Hold that thought, Jamila. Let me just first of all say well done for your history. Mentioning Timbuktu actually brought back quite a lot of information in my brain. I read history in the university, so the Mali Empire, the Songhai Empire, came back into my head. You're spot on about taking the culture into example. The Chinese, they teach their people in Chinese. So do the Germans. So do the French. So that's a solution you have offered. That's value. But I'll let you now continue from where Dr. Biu stopped regarding the local governments and their implementations.
Well, Dr. Biu, I would say before we ask that question, we should first of all determine if the local government has autonomy on, the funds that are available at their disposal to actually implement some of these programs. And until we answer that question in the affirmative, we cannot begin to question their commitment and competence in terms of, ensuring that they develop that area of the societal growth, education. For instance, you may have, as a local government chairman, you may have all the initiatives, all the most beautiful initiatives you can think of in the world. But if you do not have the funds to actually drive those initiatives, it's futile. I mean, we've read over the years, we've read so much, all the drama about the state versus local government funds and so on and so forth. But I would say that given the opportunity, that is the right to start from. That is the starting point of solving a lot of the problems. Because if you look at a lot of nations that have actually advanced, you find that what in some places they refer to, I think in places like the UK, they refer to those as boroughs, right? You find out until the leadership at the bottom of the pyramid is actually given the opportunity to do what they are meant to do. I mean, a nation cannot move anywhere, and that's the biggest problem that we have right now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jamila.
So, based on what you've just espoused, right? How do
Yeah.
we now resolve this? I know, for instance, there's quite a lot of private equities trying to drive these solutions. So, how can the private equities meet with the government of the country and prefer solutions? We all agree there's issues, but how can we drive that single process to move forward?
Well, I would say that the idea of private entities who are self-funded coming in to intervene is a very good idea. But then again, we must speak the truth to each other. We know what the major challenges are, in trying to get things done in Nigeria. I'll give you an example. Where I live in Nigeria, I have a neighbor who is a retired general that's given, retired meritoriously, served this country, with a lot of credit, very passionate about the country, who decided to open a supermarket on my street. Now, because the road was untarred, he came in, graded the road, and was prepared to actually, lay a beautiful asphalt road for us. However, he came, he came against some very serious pushbacks, and reason were that, he needed to actually do things their own way, and of course, he wasn't prepared to do that, and so we were left without opportunity to actually get the asphalt. As I speak with you right now, he's actually made efforts to put up a gutter on the street to actually help channel the rainwater that often floods the street through those gutters. We appreciate him, but there's little he can do. Now, in order for private entities to actually come in there, besides um, besides the SWOT analysis and actually designing the value chain end to end, there is also need to identify what the people on the other side of the table require and actually see if there are any concessions you can make without, you know, without being unethical. I mean, ethical concessions that you could make that will still satisfy their need and still give you the opportunity to get the work done. You understand what I mean? We
Yeah.
are available and provide this advisory to any such entities. Of course, I mean, like you said, this is a conversation. As much as we want to put a lot of things on air, we also have to be sensitive about the fact that we're on air. And no matter what, this is our home. We don't have any other home. Every country in the world have their own challenges, but they do their best to actually cover their challenges without publicizing them. For me, Jamila, I've always maintained that I have only one country. And I may travel the whole world, but I hold only one passport. And I'm very proud of that passport. As much as people sometimes are ashamed to actually wave that green passport, I have always carried it with pride. We have challenges now, but I believe that given the opportunity, there are so many wonderful people like the Tare Bius of this world who has over the years given so much to his area of expertise, to the children. He tackles some of the most challenging health challenges and child development challenges that you can think of. There are people like him, there are Davids of this world, and there are other great consultants that I'm probably not even aware of out there that are available and ready to help this country. And so we are available for advisory given the opportunity. Thank you, David.
Good.
That's an interesting perspective, bringing Usosa and bringing Usosans in. Usosa is actually a driving force. They have numbers, they have quality, and part of the reasons why federal or unity schools were developed was to integrate everybody together. I'm sure in your time in FGGC Bauchi, you probably had people from the south, from the east, from the west, from the north, all integrating and not judging. and I'm sure some of your closest friends right now that you made from that school are probably from, again, the south, east, and west. Absolutely brilliant observation. But I want to talk about your skills in business process design and optimization. I want you to speak to value chain integration, payment systems, and microfinancing models. What does all this mean? How did you come about having to get this kind of skills?
Well, David, it's a hands-on skill. As a matter of fact, it took me years to realize that what I had acquired, based on experience over the years was actually referred to as business process management. I acquired it by, you know, putting passion in everything that I did, doing it wholeheartedly, giving it my best, and always taking that position that says, if you can think it, then it's doable, and believing that there shouldn't be the phrase the word impossible should not be part of my dictionary, and the concern about failure should be a launching pad rather than um, you know um, something that holds me back. And so that's what actually ended up shaping me into what I am. But to give you an idea of what business process management is, the process design, integration, value chain, and all that, I would allow you and Dr. Biu to just select an industry of interest, and then
Well,
let's do a quick
we're
update.
going to stick to the theme of education. So let's select a school as a model. Talk us through that.
Okay, so assuming we decided to optimize Federal Government Girls College, Bauchi, right?
Right.
The first thing to look at is what they currently have in the school. What kind of library do they have? Do they still rely on the old physical library when you have library where you have physical books? Do they have access to, I mean, technology wise, do they have computers in the school, or is it the usual computer lab, where students only go there when there is a computer class, or like the heartbreaking videos that went viral some years back, where a gentleman in one of the African countries was actually using a stone and an imaginary screen to actually, a stone acted as the mouse and an imaginary screen to actually teach the students, computer. And of course, we're going to look at what kind of classes they have. Are they the regular classes where the teacher has to walk into the class, or has technology been integrated where they actually have a screen? So, meaning that one teacher can actually take a number of students at the same time, because a business intelligence suite has been used to design a blackboard environment for the students to actually interact with, and there is a teacher at the other end who actually interacts with them in real life. So these are things we will take a look at. Now, resources wise, I would like to give you an example with an experience I had during my master's program with the prestigious Glion Institute of Higher Education in Switzerland. Incidentally, I hold a master's degree in international hospitality with
Wow.
specialization in general management, across the service industry, especially for 5 and 7 star establishments. And so one of the first experience I had, which was, kind of, and that was around 2011, which is 14 years back, when I, enrolled for my master's. And the first thing that actually hit me was the sheer database, expansive it was. The fact that I had access to over 5 million resources. And this is me being conservative. 5 million contemporary resources all over the world, integrated together under the laureate, under the laureate academy, education system. I had, I think, the database where it was referred to as open. Was that open source? I can't remember now. Sorry, it escaped me. I had access to peer-reviewed, contemporary articles, research articles. I had access to books. I had access to, theses that had been written, you name it. And it was enormous. As a matter of fact, the first time I accepted, and there was actually provision for me to specifically request for other titles that I did not have access to. And it was, it was so, the user interface was so easy and very friendly that even when the first time I logged on and wasn't sure what to do, all I needed to do was actually, pen down, just like what AI does now, just pen down what it is I wanted, and a lot of resources will be put at my disposal. Some would be sent to my email and all that. So, for me, these are the kind of things I'd like to make available. So Usosans can decide to invest in actually creating a database, even if it's a paid database, that we can task ourselves and decide to actually sustain it so that it becomes available to all Usosan associated schools today, so that they have a very rich database. So much so that by the time a child comes from Europe to Nigeria on holiday, when they interact with Usosan school associated school students, they should be able to discuss at par. They should discuss and understand topics and subjects that are contemporary, and then drill down to historicals. So these are the things I'd like to look at, which gives them the opportunity, should they decide that they want to actually take the what's that exam again in Europe and in the US, where primary school students actually take to move to secondary school, or to,
SAT.
Yes,
that.
thank you.
It's that, yeah. It's that section.
So San and be able write those exams comfortably, and then they have a choice of either getting scholarships or getting admissions to some of those schools. When I went to school, I was one of the lucky students that went to secondary school on Bauchi State Government scholarship. As a matter of fact, as when I left Federal Government Girls College Bauchi, my scholarship was still running. My scholarship was still running. I will collect books. In fact, there were times when, may Allah forgive me, I will collect my books and then I will go back, because I had a friend who was from a very poor home, whose parents could not afford to buy her textbooks. Then I will collect my textbooks, give them to her, and then still go back and say my textbooks are missing. Even another set. So this is how we need to look at it first. Give them access to a broader database, and then take a look at the curriculum, redesign it in such a way that it's competitive against other schools of the same level in other parts of the world. And then, of course, look at ways of testing them as well. Let the testing be more interactive, rather than the usual force students to actually memorize things and come back and come to the class to actually regurgitate the same things that you force them to memorize. Why don't we make it application based, applicable to real life situations? So these are some of the things that I would want to consider if I were to optimize education. So identify the current process, identify where we're headed, and then identify what we refer to as value chain actions. When we identify the value chain actions, which are things like the database, the SAT test, the opportunity to actually compete at the same level with other parts of the world, and then of course begin to plug in the value chain actions. In this case, with the need for databases, you now look at how many online libraries you need to integrate together to actually give them a broader database to access, to study from. And then, of course, you begin to look at the opportunities for mentorships, perhaps from some of us consultants, especially. I mean, I was, as a student in secondary school, I was a difficult child. I was a difficult student because of my nature, because of the kind of development that I required. It was like there was too much happening in my head at the same time, and so I didn't know how to express that. So I was difficult, and so my parents didn't understand that. The teachers didn't understand that. So with the mentorship, people like Tare and others who understand some of these challenges can actually come in and identify those issues and help such students if there are any. I yield here. I hope that
Yeah,
that answered.
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
sorry, Dr. Biu, I'll
Okay.
refer to you in a moment. In fairness, Jamila, the current leadership of USOSA is actually trying to implement the kind of solutions you've just literally highlighted. They're working with two technological partners, one to deliver smart classrooms to federal or unity schools, and then they're working with another one to create that database of all unity school alumni and their resources so you can tap into it. It is called Alumni Hub. That's a private discussion we can have later. I'll defer to Dr. Biu.
Okay, let's thank you, Jamila, for the brilliant presentation and the way you've answered our question. Let me take you back to school where everything started. I remember when I got to Federal Government College, Warri, on Friday evenings, we had language studies. And I cannot believe that a girl from Bauchi can speak three fluent Nigerian languages: Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. You are the perfect Nigerian. We need more people like you. Tell us, how did you manage to learn and speak Igbo and Yoruba?
Well, Dr. Tare, I would credit that quality to General Ibrahim Babangida, who brilliantly thought of using language to promote the One Nigeria principle in his time. And what was the policy all about? And remember, this was before Nigerian languages was actually incorporated into the WAEC syllabus, and then students started writing, offering it and writing it as one of the WAEC subjects. IBB's policy maintained that in all the Ususan related schools, that if you are from the predominantly from any of the predominant three recognized tribes nationally. So in my case, if you're Hausa, you are expected to actually choose between Yoruba and Igbo to learn. And if you're Igbo, same thing will be expected, Hausa and Yoruba, and if you're Yoruba, Hausa and Igbo. So now, in my own case, while the target was for every graduate of an Usosan related school to leave school with 2 languages, I decided I wanted to leave school with 3 languages. And so how did I achieve that? I had my childhood friend whom we all grew up together in Bauchi, Mayowa Bello, who was Yoruba. And we made a pact. And I was like, Mayowa, you know what? Why don't we collect the notes from our classmates who are learning Yoruba, and you can use that to teach me Yoruba. And then I'll collect the notes from our classmates who are learning Hausa, and I can use that to teach you Hausa. And then both of us actually enroll for Igbo language. And she agreed. And so that was what we did. Unfortunately, I had a better flair for language, for learning languages than she did. I benefited more from that arrangement. So at the end of the day, I gained 3 languages, and of course, she was stuck with Yoruba and did not make very good progress with Igbo.
Wow.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's how I
That's
came
really
about
well
it.
done.
Proudly.
So, so basically, I've made it a habit to at least know what "how are you" or "thank you" is in various languages. For example, in Fofude, I know when I was in Yola, I would go Jambandu, and they'll go Jam Jam. Uh, with the Polish, I go Yakshimash, and they go Dobja Dobja. That brings in camaraderie, and conversations are now easier.
Yes.
Excellent. So let's go to current affairs. What
Yes.
projects are you involved in now? What solutions are you offering? And how can both the SOSANs or TNN audiences key in?
Well, we're currently prospecting a franchise relationship with Kaduna Electric. We're currently trying to do something in the area of electricity. Because I'm sure you will agree with me that there's a lot of challenge in that area. We're one of the few franchisees that are being considered to work with Kaduna Electric. My company is actually been offered the opportunity to manage 2 gigantic feeders located within the Rigasa area of Kaduna metropolis. Rigasa is quite a densely populated semi-urban environment within Kaduna town. You know where the Rigasa train station is. I don't know how conversant you are with Kaduna town, David. Have you ever visited?
Well, I did do a presentation for the refinery once, and I think I stayed in the Hamdala. I think that's as much as I know about about Kaduna.
Okay. So the refinery is, I think, around the Sabo environment, but it's generally within the same catchment area. Now, we have been extended the opportunity to run 2 feeders. The first one is the high-end Regasa, 11 kVA, and then, of course, there's the 11 kVA Makarfi. And where we've done our visibility studies, we've done our investment planning, and, a few other things. We are now at the stage of finalizing with Kaduna Electric. We are at the documentation stage where we're meant to provide our statutory documents that will be sent to the regulator, the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, to obtain a letter of no objection to proceed with the project. Now, to give you an idea of the potential of that project, the both feeders are 11 kVA right now, and at 11 kVA they have about 85 distribution transformers, linked to both feeders. That environment is currently on band E. That is a minimum of 4 hours a day. Now, even at 4 hours a day, whenever you cannot bring both feeders online as I speak with you right now simultaneously, because the number of people that would actually draw energy from those feeders, from both feeders, is enormous, quite challenging for the injection station. So the only way to sustain that is actually to bring one feeder at a time. So you may decide to run this feeder for 4 hours and then take it down and bring the other feeder on for 4 hours. And to successfully run each of those feeders, you have to open up some of the distribution transformers. So indirectly, that tells you that there is a capacity problem. And again, because of the nature of the engagement between the distribution companies and the government, there is a huge demand for capital investment, which is a bit difficult for the discos to actually do now because there is a problem of continuous vandalization of the infrastructure. And of course, there is a problem of energy theft because, as it is, when the energy is generated, it has to be pushed to them through the transmission company. They are expected to actually distribute that energy and then collect the revenue and send it back. Now, oftentimes these discos are left struggling because the amount of energy that is pushed to them, when you remove the losses from some of those energies as from the energy as a result of decay infrastructure, whatever else is left that they distribute, when they collect the revenue, it doesn't come anywhere close to, the energy that was put to them. So you see, they find themselves struggling to continuously pay the debt that keeps accumulating. Hence, the reason for the franchising arrangement. So we are expected to actually come in, take charge of those two feeders, and upgrade the infrastructure, meter the customers, enumerate the customers to even understand how many they are, and of course begin to cluster them. You segregate and cluster them according to energy demand to determine the number of distribution transformers you need to buy new ones or the number of distribution transformers you need to upgrade. For example, if I cluster consumers if a cluster is currently being served by a 200 kVA transformer, whereas the current consumption demand within that environment after the enumeration suggests that I should actually put a 500 kVA. I have a choice of either putting installing a 500 kVA and retrieving this 200 kVA, or further splitting them into two and maybe putting a 300 here, 300 here to satisfy that. I also need to look at the high tension and the low tension, transmission lines, transmission and distribution lines to strengthen them such that all the energy that comes through there is optimized, that we don't lose much energy. For some of them, you actually find that the fittings that are required to sustain and connect some of these cables together are sometimes below the required specification for that particular lines. The poles and what have you. So that's the project we're doing now. And in order to ensure that we optimize this project, we actually thought of putting up our own mini grid to complement whatever it is that we get from the national grid, and also as much as possible to reduce the pressure on the national grid, because as it is, sometimes what comes through the national grid may not necessarily be enough. And so one of the things that we want to do is actually put up our own mini grid so that we can be available, we can make power available to our customers. And so that is capital intensive. The infrastructure upgrade is capital intensive. And so some of the things that we're looking at is actually speaking to investors, raising funds. We have a target of about $10 million as it is right now to actually fund the infrastructure upgrade and the rehabilitation requirements for that project. It's a huge project. The potential is enormous. I know the next concern will be, okay, as it is right now, the major concern is that customers are not paying their bills. So how do you expect to actually, how do you account for the return on investment when such an issue is a challenge in the industry? So one of the things we're doing is we're also looking at, as part of our optimization, we're looking at the income bracket of the people we're serving, right? First off, we're looking at the opportunity of bringing most of the SMEs that have been forced to go into town and, congest inside Kaduna Town. We're looking at bringing them back into Rigasa by creating micro-industrial zones for, across various areas of interest: agriculture, production, manufacturing, and the likes. So we create that. Of course, look at the income bracket of those that are residential consumers within that environment. Now I'll give you an example. People like welders are the menial workers earned by the day. So because they earn by the day, it is easier for them to actually settle bills based on how they earn, compared to you asking them to settle bills at the end of the month. So the man who is able to contribute, say, 500 naira to a wallet tied to their utility account on a daily basis, at the end of the month will have about 15,000 naira at their disposal to spend. You may choose to ask them at the end of the month to say, okay, you know what, add 5,000 naira to buy your 15,000 naira savings, and then we can vent to you at 5,000 naira weekly. So he knows that every week you're actually going to get 5,000 naira credit, compared to if he's a postpaid customer, you ask him to actually squeeze 20,000 naira at the end of the month to pay a bill. Now that's a lot of money that they may not be able to save. But if you ask them to save on a daily basis to actually make that up, it makes it easier for them to actually pay for their bills. Now, in terms of energy theft, we're also looking at technology. We're looking at actually designing, manufacturing, and actually bringing in meters that are smart. Meters that, even if you think you can bypass those meters and consume energy, you're welcome. I even prefer people bypassing the meter, because while you're consuming freely, thinking that you're stealing from me, by the time you return the cable, the meter should simply be able to add up the energy that you have consumed. And if there is credit in the meter, just automatically deduct it. But above all, I believe the critical success factor is trust. We must establish trust, and it is easy to actually gain trust from people at the bottom of the pyramid. When you come in, you commit to ensuring that there is seamless service provision. They would in turn commit to actually paying their bills as at when due. And of course, you put in place risk mitigation mechanisms with the example I just gave with the smart metering. So as it is right now, we're happy to talk to people within the network that are interested in hearing more about the project and what opportunities there are for investment to actually help us achieve this.
I'm sat here in awe of everything you've just said.
Fantastic.
And I have no doubt in my mind that you will deliver exactly as you've espoused. And I hope that once this is done, we have you back on so that people can actually understand that when you think it, you can do it. That's one of your philosophies I picked up from when we started the program. It's so interesting. Dr. Biu.
Yes, Jamila, I'm really very proud of you, and you've demonstrated to us your skills. In fact, you should be an example to Isosans. Many should want to be like you when they grow up. And thank you very much for joining this podcast. And we wish you success in your big endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll give Jamila the last word. Before I do that, please remember to view the podcast. You'll see we have a YouTube channel, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. You'll see it going underneath the screen. Subscribe, like, share. If you think you've gained value, comment. We'll pass any questions to Jamila, and she'll be happy to contact or respond to your queries. Jamila, we'll give you the last, according to it, not the least word.
I'm honored to have been a part of today's podcast. I would like to implore all Isosan graduates and those still in school to believe strongly, like you said, David. If you can think it, it's doable. But I also like to say, Guys, please support us in any way that you can. With this project, there is a lot that will be achieved. I'm probably going to be the first woman from a conservative environment where women seldom venture into the part of electricity that I'm actually venturing into. I'm going to be the first northern Muslim and woman to actually uh, you know run such an ambitious project in the industry. And trust me, at the end of the day, we'll all be very happy about it. We have an end-to-end solution, including social investment, social development, community development, you name it. We'll be very happy to talk to you in details about our project. Thank you so much, David. I wish us the very best.
Excellent. I'm going to end recording, spend 5 minutes together, and then we'll call it a day, okay? Thank you.